What's up, guys? Cass here from GiveWave Studios, and on this one I'm going to show you guys how to turn all these bits of foam parts that you see here into this awesome Baby Yoda head. Body is coming soon in the part 2 tutorial, but at least the patterns for this little guy are going to be free. Let's get it. So first thing we're going to do is separate our parts into our lefts and our right. Do make sure to label all of your parts with all of the information that's on the patterns so you don't get confused, okay? And then what we're going to do is start off with the ears. You'll notice on your patterns that there is these dotted lines here. You want to make sure to connect those. Those you're going to cut into valley cuts, so this is technically the inside of the ear, and then this will be the outside. Make sure to transfer your tick marks, okay, so that you can glue the parts to where they belong. All right, after you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and close this part of the ear. Okay, we're going to make sure to heat up our foam so we can heat form it over any rounded object that you might have. Your knee or elbow works just as well. I happen to have a metal anvil. And that's pretty much it for this step. So trench cut or valley cut goes like this. You're going to trace your line, okay? And then on the right side, you're going to cut at an angle towards the middle of your Sharpie line, okay? You're cutting kind of like at a 45-degree angle. About a quarter of the way into the foam, okay, from one edge to the other, and then you're going to twist your part around and you're going to cut the opposite. So what you're looking to do is to have your diagonal lines meet each other inside of the foam, okay? So if you do this with a Sharpie, if you stay on either side of your Sharpie mark, that's the perfect width for you to do these trench cuts. Okay, so I'm doing that all the way through. And once you're done with that, you can just kind of open this and peel that right out, just like so. All right, just make sure not to cut too deep. See that? This is what you want to avoid. So this is why I'm telling you guys to cut only about a quarter of the way into the foam, so that you don't have to do this, because this means that you have to start over. All right, I did this on purpose just to show you guys what not to do. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through the steps of doing it the proper way, and then we're going to continue assembling this. So just to show you guys the difference, this is a cut that is too deep. This is a cut that is just right. You can tell because when I bend this here, right, there's no opening. It's still foam, and it gives me a nice clean curve here. When I bend this here, it just splits open. You have gone too deep. If this happens, cut out your part and try again. All right, fast forward time. Catch you guys for the next step. Okay, all our channels are dug out, so we're ready to assemble the ears. Like I said earlier, these are my original patterns, super messy, but don't worry about it. The digital patterns you receive are going to be much cleaner than this. But as you can see, I've written main ear, ear N, bottom N, and there's going to be much more information on your pattern, so make sure you transfer that so that it's easy for you to know where all of the pieces go. So now I'm just going to use my heat gun. I'm going to heat these pieces and curl them up a little bit. Fast forward through that step. Catch you guys for the next one. Alright, so now with all of my parts curved the way that I want them to be, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling this. So I'm going to put contact cement on the inside here to close these up, okay, on both ears. Notice how I just kind of keep them split open so I can get the glue as far into this sharp cut here. So I make sure that everything glues appropriately. It's okay if you get glue a little bit outside of it, you can always sand that off, but the important thing is to make sure that the glue does make it all the way in, so that this does stick together back properly. Okay, I'll start with the left side, and then I will work my way over to the right side. Just gonna fast forward through this step and go ahead and catch you guys for the next one. Alright, so this is what your ear should look like once you've put everything together, right? As you can see, we have a nice big floppy Yoda ear, okay? And these cuts that we did earlier in the middle, you can see how useful they are now because they allow the, basically like the edge of the ear to bend in to itself and create like that dimensional look. Okay, so fast forward through the next step, we're going to put together the, all right, and here we have 2 Baby Yoda ears. Okay, so now on to the head pieces. Again, we're going to start with our lefts and our rights. Okay, so quick little explanation on things that you must absolutely avoid. So I need you guys to realize that you need to have a 45-degree bevel, an outer bevel. When what that means is that the surface that's going to be on the outside, you're going to use your Dremel like this. Okay, so you're going to bevel it on the outside, not the inside, the outside. And that what that's going to allow is, so this is basically this piece here. So what that's going to allow is for these parts here not to sit flush but jut out instead, because this is supposed to be like his cheek and not supposed to just kind of like bump out a little bit. Same thing over here, you want that definition there, you don't want it to just kind of get lost in the sauce. But this is basically what half of the face is looking like so far. So I'm going to start with this as the beginning of the tutorial so that we can do everything correctly. So in these 3 pieces, you're going to go ahead and transfer the shaded area of your pattern onto the foam, okay, about the width of a Sharpie marker, and you're going to grab a Dremel and you're going to Dremel that down at an angle. So this edge here will stay the same, but this will get eaten up until the inside of this line here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and catch you guys for the next steps. Okay, and as you can see, we have our beveled edges here, here, and here. With all of our pieces ready, what we're going to do is heat our foam, close all of our dart marks, okay, with contact cement. Same thing here. We're going to form all of our pieces nice and circularly. So here, if you look at this half, you get a sense of what the different curves on the parts are. So this is this piece right here. Okay, this curves like this, creates the side of the head. This piece curves like this. This is this piece here, like that. Okay, to create the top of the head. The cheek just kind of gets rounded. Okay, don't forget to put your bevels on the insides here, here as well, and here. And what these are going to do, eventually they're going to connect, and that's what's going to create this little cavity here to make it look like an actual eye socket. As you can see on the inside, they all connect. This connects to this, connects to that, connects to this, and they create that cavity. So once we have that, we glue that to itself, and that creates that little cavity in there. So don't forget to transfer those marks on your piece and do that on the reverse side of your part. Okay, and then these just get bent in here and out this way. Okay, so if you're looking at the L of this, which is going to end up looking like this, this part is going to bend outwards, this part is going to bend inwards. And then we'll just install everything and follow your tick marks. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through all those steps and catch you guys for the next one. Okay, we have all of our pieces. Let's start assembling. this up, like so, right here and right there. Okay, we have a half a face here. Now, I want you guys to look and see what a difference it makes once we have the beveled edges here. See how much of a puffy cheek we get on this side as opposed to here. So do be sure that you do your bevels on the marked areas. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this one into place as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and put some glue on the inside of this and seal it up on the inside of these trenches, and then seal it up so that it holds its shape like this side does. And now we're going to just glue our two halves together. Okay, and there we have it, a head, or at least the base. So we're starting to see a semblance of Baby Yoda. And now what we're going to do is these pieces here, we're going to Dremel these down, and we're going to fade them to a tip here, fade them to a tip there, round these edges down, fade them down also, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So we're basically going from this flat piece that you see here to something more like this. As you can see, the sides here have been smoothed out so that it tapers and falls to the side, kind of like a hill, right? And then here goes from thick to super thin as you can get it. Okay, same thing on this side, thick to super thin, as thin as you can get it. And that's basically the general shape that you're doing for all of these pieces. Just remember to make sure that you separate your lefts and your rights so that you can have the opposite side of all of your pieces. So I'm gonna skip through this step since I've explained it, and then catch you guys for the next one. And this piece goes from this to this, as you can see. Okay, we also have this piece. You can see flat piece and finished piece. Flat piece, finished piece. Okay, so bevel, bevel, soften, taper to the edge, and do the same thing but opposite side. Okay, you're gonna go from this flat piece to this piece here. Okay, and this flat piece becomes this piece here, tapered to the edges, as you can see, tapered to a point, edge here. You can see the difference between the shapes. Okay, that's basically what we're doing for these parts. And then we'll move on to the nose, which will be a little different, so I'll take my time to explain that. Now, this little guy, this is probably going to be the hardest part of this build. If you have foam clay, it'll probably be a lot easier for you to just sculpt this and stick it on. But since this is a pattern that I'm selling, and I'm selling DIY kits, it's not like I can send a sample of foam clay along with it. So I'm showing you guys how to do this with an actual piece of foam, because not everyone will have access to that foam clay stuff, and it's kind of pointless to buy a big tub of it just to do this one little piece. So what I'm going to start with is a small pyramid head Dremel, and I'm going to do the grooves of the nose here, and then very similar to what I've been doing with the other pieces, I'm just going to taper those to a point here and round off this area here and taper that down also. So I'm going to taper it down this way, taper it down this way a little bit more, so like rounding it really and cleaning it up. Alright, so here's that little button nose. So now those grooves that I was talking about, I'm going to try and put those back in with this smaller pyramid shaped head. right, and this is kind of what we're going for here. So, can't do it with a Dremel. Takes a little bit, definitely a lot of finesse to do this part, which is why I'm saying this is probably the most difficult part of this build. But if you have some foam clay, or maybe you can sculpt this out of something else and stick it onto your prop, it'll work. But this is how I would do it with a Dremel. Alright, on to these. So one more time to give some perspective, we went from this flat shape that you see here to this more three-dimensional nose shape that you see here. See the taper and the work that was done. Alright, now all we have to do is just glue our eyelids into place. So obviously this is going to go right where that dent is, okay, like that, and all the way around and through. And then this one is going to go at the bottom like so. Alright, so get that done and I'll catch you guys for the next step. Okay, now we're going to do these pieces here. They're kind of like the brows. So this is going to go to the left and the right of the nose, but like super close to it. So I'll start at the top here, right in the middle. As you can see, I've already marked where my pieces are going to go, and this is really just kind of up to you. If you want it to be a little wider, a little closer, that's a decision that you will make. It is your kit and your Baby Yoda. Alright there. So as you can see, it just kind of falls right next to the nose right there. I'll do the same thing for this next piece. I'm going to start this right there in the middle. Line right up to and on top of the nose, like so. Sweet. Okay. Alright, now for the ears. So this is also one of those things that is very eye of the beholder type of situation. But I have found that this seam line here, okay, if you follow this seam line here down, this is probably a good start to the top of the fold of the ear. You see how I have a mark here that's a little slightly off from that. That's just my personal preference of where I would put it. So I'm going to start it here, I'm going to roll it around and basically end it somewhere along this seam here. So if you have your start point here and your end point somewhere here, I feel like that's pretty much all you need. But if you want to position it differently yourself, by all means, it's your kit. Do what you must. This is the way. So I'm going to go ahead and install both of these and catch you guys for the next step. Alright, cool. And then when it comes to these little shapes and dots, these are part of the patterns as well. You can put as many or as little as these as you want over the top of the head. These are kind of like a, it's something that this race of creatures has, these kind of like bumps on top of the head. Some of you might see fit to make them long, some of you might find it just fine to do these pebble looking things. DIY kit, up to you. You decide, you make it happen. Alright, my instructions are basically just guidelines. Alright, so that is pretty much it for our Yoda head. Alright, so another thing that I ended up doing is I ended up cutting the mouth open. So I guess I'll leave an annotation. But if you cut the mouth open, you can kind of like decide what position you want it in. If you want it closed, if he's biting his lower lip, which is more or less the stance that he's always in. So you can kind of customize a little bit what the look of your little character ends up being like. And another thing that I'm going to do is just add a couple of wrinkles and lines with the Dremel. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that step. And since it's very objective, the type of weathering that you're going to be doing to this piece, I'm literally going to leave it up to you guys, which is why this is so much more of an advanced kit, because you kind of have to know what you're doing. I do know that he has a little bit of a divot here at the lip, so I'm going to try and bring that in. A couple of wrinkles here and there, the eyes and at the lip and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay, so if you guys can tell, I added the little divot in the middle of his lip. I added a little bit of wrinkles to the top of the mouth. I separated the mouth so I can kind of just leave it as I see fit. I'm going to have the upper lip over the bottom lip a little bit, and then I added some wrinkles to the bottom lip as well as some wrinkles on the side of the eyes here, and then I'm just going to clean all of this up, heat seal everything, and get ready for paint. Alright, just going to give this the good old once over with the heat gun. Alright, so to clean up some of our seams a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add some of this quick seal, which is, it's a fairly easy process, if anything, just a little time consuming. So put some down, glob it on there, and then you can grab like a card or something that has like a flat back to it and just kind of scrape it off and leave the excess in the cracks. Okay, so you fill the cracks. You can fill the cracks with your fingers too, but then you can grab like a business card or a piece of cardstock and just squeegee it off, leaving the quick seal material inside of the crack that then fills your seam. You might have to do this a couple of times, but you can achieve some really good results and make sure that everything is filled so that when you actually paint it, you don't actually see any of these seams. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that process and catch you guys for the next step. Alright, so this is more or less the filling that I've done. As you can see, I filled a lot of the seams near the eyes. A lot of the stuff that I feel is going to be like super visible. I didn't really bother so much with the side of the head. I sanded this nice and smooth with a stone bit on the Dremel. Hopefully it's something that won't show up too much. I do plan on putting like hair on top of here, so a lot of my sins are going to be able to be hidden by everything else that I'm going to be doing to this afterwards. Another trick you can do if you have a wood burner with this flat tip here, you can add kind of like wrinkle lines to the entirety of the piece. So this is what I'm going to do to kind of help hide my sins a little bit. Have it on the highest heat setting. I'm doing really light passes because I want these to be just kind of super subtle. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to do a second coat of this and then we'll move on to paint. Alright, so after about 3 coats of Plasti Dip, this is our little guy. Okay, see, front and back, inside out. And now we're going to paint him a nice green and start weathering and doing all sorts of funky stuff to try and get him to look as realistic as possible. Alright, back from the paint booth with our little guy. As you can see, we've got a Baby Yoda. So the only other thing I'm going to do is add some highlights and shadows. So I have this kind of like tannish color paint. It's called Wedding Cake. It's a pastel. It's from Martha Stewart's Crafts. I don't know how I got this, but it works. It's the color I'm looking for to just kind of do highlights. So what I'm going to do is with a brush, I'm going to go over the tall areas and just kind of do a little bit of highlighting on anything that's raised, any raised surface. I'm going to just do like a light dry brush dusting to bring a little bit of highlight to the area. So I'm going to do this step for the entirety of the build and fast forward through that and catch you guys for the next step. Okay, and here we have our highlights. Now I'm going to go ahead and do a light wash with like a dark green, kind of similar to the base green that I have, and kind of wipe that off real quick and get some stuff into the grooves of all of the little lines and wrinkles that I've created earlier. Okay, now we can take a closer look at our little guy here. You can see I have some shadows with the dark green wash and some highlights with the I don't know, wedding cake color that I spoke about earlier. After I did the wash, I kind of lost some of the highlights, so I did go back in and just kind of re-emphasize some of those areas. So that is something that you can do as well if you feel like you lose some of your detail after one or another layer, more or less. Now we can focus on making his eyeballs. What I'm going to use are glass cabochons, and what I'm going to do is print out the eyes and stick them to the back of that. That way it kind of makes it look like his actual eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through that step and catch you guys for the next one. Actually not going to have the time to print out the eyes because my color printer is not working. So I'm going to do the next best thing and come up with a different solution. So what I'm going to use is some electric tape just so I can get the black of the eye, and I'm going to glue that to the bottom of the cabochon, and I'm going to glue the cabochon to a piece of foam that I'm then going to glue to the inside of the head. Okay, so I will go ahead and go through those steps and catch you guys for the next one. Baby Yoda da 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 da, baby Yoda da 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 da, baby Yoda da 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 da, baby Yoda. There we have it, Baby Yoda, complete with eyes and movable mouth. You can tuck his lip in. You can kind of glue it so it stays a little bit open. Open it all the way up, whatever the case may be. Customize it to your liking. Okay, so this is the end of this tutorial. Haha, scratch that, forget I said anything. I completely forgot that the inside of the ears were like a fleshy pink that kind of is dark, like as opaque as possible here, and kind of fades into the green there to kind of make it look like it's translucent, because these ears are obviously not. So I'll do that and then we'll actually wrap up this tutorial. Alright, so now I can say that we're actually done with this step of the tutorial. So this is only going to be for the head. I'll be doing another tutorial for the rest of the body. Probably not so much the clothes because I'm not much of a seamstress. Y'all can figure that out. But yeah, as far as the head is concerned, this is basically what we've got. A nice little Baby Yoda. As you can see, I did a gradient fade here with the pink, so any type of blush or light or baby pink that you have, you can use. I would suggest doing it in multiple passes, almost dry brushing it until you get like darker here and lighter there. That way it gets like a very nice gradual feel that makes it almost look translucent, not completely. But yeah, so I hope you guys found this tutorial useful. I hope you guys learned something. If you guys got the patterns from GiveWaveStudios.com, I appreciate the support. Spread the word, spread the love. And if you guys have any questions, concerns, or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below the video. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. It's been Cass from GiveWave Studios, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.